Will the Bengals make the playoffs? And will the Bengals re-sign Tee Higgins? We'll talk about this coming up next on the Wincinnati podcast.
It's an exciting time to be a Bengals fan.
Welcome to the Wincinnati podcast. I'm Ace, he's Zim. We have made it to week 18 where we have a lot of stuff to still talk about for this Bengals team. But before we get into that, partner, how you doing tonight?
Happy New Year, sir. I'm just drinking some hot cider. I'm still recovering from the holidays. We made it. I know you just had celebrated Mrs. Ace's birthday, so hopefully that went well for you.
It was a great night. It was a nice night. It was a nice
Good
night.
You had your R&B ready, so that's all good. And I had a real chill New Year. This is like the first time I didn't go out in like I want to say like 8 years, bro, and it was great. I didn't go nowhere. It was beautiful. We cooked food all day. It was awesome. So now that I got out of my system, now I'm ready to talk ball. What's up?
Yeah, bro. First pod of 2025, kicking it off with a banger. Happy New Year to everybody out there. And it started off with a banger. Joseph Lee Burrow stepped to the podium, had some things to say. The exact quote, Zim, if you don't mind, give people the gist of what Joe Burrow was saying.
Hold on. You want me to give you the exact quote?
It can just be the gist. It doesn't have to be the exact quote if we don't have it.
Well, yeah, he put the pressure, I thought, on the front office. Let me give you the full quote. And it starts with, you don't want to make a living out of letting great players leave the building. That's why you want to do everything you can to get these things done early. And this was in response on Joe Burrow on signing stars like Jamar Chase and Tee Higgins. I would argue that probably is talking about a lot of players. It could be DJ Reader. It could be Jesse Bates. It could be Mixon. It could be a lot of players that are deemed as stars that they just let walk. And he's pretty much letting them know, like he's been known for the last couple of weeks, about the Tee Higgins, like he's in need. I'll be very disappointed if they didn't bring him back. I feel like we should get it done. I think we can get it done. All of these different things that Joe Burrow has said is putting tremendous pressure on the front office. And a lot of people I've seen say, well, that doesn't work. He's not the coach. He's a player. I'm not even labeling it shut up and dribble talk, but I just feel like they're vastly underestimating the popularity and the celebrity and the greatness of Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow puts a different level of pressure on the front office that Mike Brown has never seen. Yeah, Carson Palmer was a top 3 quarterback, but he never had the social media reach. He never had, like when Joe says these things, they go viral instantly. And I don't care what team you're a fan of, people pay attention to this. From a PR standpoint, you can't even be on a Bengals social media team and think that you're about to get any post off without 1,000 million people in the comment section letting you know, like, hey, look, this is what Joe said he want. Joe said he wants Tee Higgins. Joe said don't make a habit out of doing it. Like, they can't get past it. And I love it. I think it's beautiful. I think a lot of people, and I want to get your take on it, because I've seen a lot of people say, oh man, I'm living in fear off of this. And I think the exact opposite. I think that he's got them by the balls. I think that people are underestimating. I think that they think that Mike Brown is stupid, which he's not. He might not be a big spender, but he ain't stupid. And I mean that in the sense of, I don't think there's any world where he wants to be classified as the laughing stock of the NFL. If Joe Burrow was to request a trade or signal that he wants out at any point, it will be the biggest bomb and the biggest hit to young Mike, because that's Paul, like that's the lineage, and this is young Mikey. Like, This will be the biggest hit on anything he's ever done. And I think people that have been following his team for a long time don't understand that everything about him as he gets to this stage in his life, everything will all collapse if Joe Burrow were to do that. And I don't think there's any world where he would let that happen. Do you see a world where he think that he doesn't give in to the demands that Burrow's asking? And Burrow isn't asking for much.
No, absolutely not. I mean, we've talked to people in the know and in circles that know these people. Like, we hear a lot of people on Twitter that think they know Mike Brown, think they know what he's going to do based off of history. We're talking about people that have actually been in the building with them and know how they operate. And they have always said the quarterback, and not like the Andy Daltons of the world or anybody like that, but the Joseph Lee Burrows of the world definitely pull a lot of weight in what they say matters. Anything that comes out of the franchise's mouth matters. So this whole thing that Mike Brown doesn't care about what Joe Burrow, like, get that out of your head, because it's not true. If it wasn't coming from Joe Burrow, then that's why you probably see a lot of players in the past go away. Like, it's situations where, yes, they asked Joe Burrow about Jesse Bates, but it wasn't being recurrently brought up by Joe Burrow in the media for him to keep saying, like, hey, you need to sign these guys. That never happened with DJ Reader. That never happened with some of these other guys. So for people out there saying, hey, Joe has spoken up for other guys before, yeah, but not to this extent. It hasn't been like the Tee Higgins situation whatsoever. And not saying that he didn't have an affinity for those guys on defense, but this is a direct loss to him. This is not a situation where somebody on the other side of the ball that does not affect his numbers, that does not affect his production and what they're able to do on the offense. This is a situation where it does. So Joe being very vocal about this, Joe making demands about this, is definitely going to help, I think, push this across the finish line. Think about some of those situations like Orlando Brown Jr., who was there to meet with Orlando Brown Jr. to try to seal the deal. It was Joseph Lee Burrow. When it came to La'el Collins, who was it? It was Joseph Lee Burrow. If you don't think that Joe Burrow is involved with the front office on some of these signings that have been happening, you don't think Joe Burrow is pushing for Orlando Brown, I don't know what to tell you. And if you don't think that Joe Burrow is going to push for a Tee Higgins, and if they don't keep him, that it's not going to be a problem, I don't know what to tell you, because he's made it clear that that's what he wants to happen. And I do think, like you said, Mike Brown is going to honor anything that Joe Burrow wants.
The other part, you bring up Orlando Brown Jr., think about this too. I do want to address the Jesse Bates one too, which is perfect that you brought that up. The Orlando Brown one, think about this. There's somebody right now listening to this and be like, they just homers or whatever. Cool. I respect your opinion. Just don't care for it, right? It's like, but look, I'm joking. But Orlando Brown Jr. is a guy that's just playing on a broken leg. And that's a guy that everybody said that we couldn't get of that stature or that magnitude. Every time that Orlando Brown speaks on the organization, including last week, he talked about how good it is to be a part of an organization like that. Glowing reports after playing on a broken leg when he shouldn't. He probably should just chill out and just go to the next season, right? He's at practice today. So like this ideal or like this pessimistic idea that nobody's buying into the Bengals or whatever, or like there's only like fans or something like that. I just think that like people are blatantly telling you that every single week, and they're playing for that. Joe Burrow made a statement 4 or 5 weeks ago and said, we're going to find out about a lot of people that's going to be here moving forward or not. Joe Burrow has shown the Mike Thomases of the world or whatever, he'll have you exiled. Drop a pass. Don't be where you're supposed to be. Mess up a trade like Travion Williams. I ain't seen bro since he messed up them 2 plays. And Joe Burrow lit into, I ain't seen him on the field since then. He'll have you exiled if you don't know. He gave Burton a shot like 1 week or whatever, right? Messed up them damn deep balls. Burton ain't been out on a route since. So, like, y'all think that Joe Burrow is not messing around, bro. The Jesse Bates one, I'm going to go back to this one. The Jesse Bates one, I think, is part of the frustrations of Joe Burrow at the end of last season when he came to the podium and said, I put things in my contract so that Tee Higgins could stay. The Jesse Bates one is a complicated conversation because it's not like the wide receiver market. The safety market is totally different. You could go and supplement safeties right now top safety will get like $15 million, $18 million, like the top level guy, right? So like to replace that isn't some crazy conundrum that teams face. In fact, you just watched a team like Justin Simmons drop what was believed to be one of the best safeties in the National Football League like it was nothing, because the value of it isn't the same. Him saying that he wanted Bates at the time, sure, all the players in the locker room said that they want him, but they all did it under the pretense that they were going to be able to, we don't have enough money to sign Bates. It's because we're about to go sign Tee Higgins. So when the Tee Higgins thing doesn't happen, now look at Joe. And that was the point that I wanted to like reference with the Bates one. Had everybody known it was going to play out like that, yeah, he probably would have been maybe more vocal. Like you said, they asked him about it a couple times. That was his boy. They were going to all the UFC fights together and everything. So why would he not? Yeah, well, what is he supposed to say? Oh yeah, I mean, if they want to keep him or not, yeah, he's gonna say that. But going out of his way every single week to say I want Tee Higgins is a line in the sand that I'm not afraid of. I don't think Bengals fans should be either. Joe Burrow's having a lot of success here in Cincinnati. Let's not forget his first 2 full NFL seasons. He went straight to a Super Bowl. He went in his first NFL season, he went straight to a Super Bowl. Then he went back-to-back to an AFC Championship game. So let's not act like he's playing for the Browns and he just went to some organization, didn't have success. And then, mind you, he's only 359 yards away from throwing for 5,000 yards. And so when people say like, oh, he's going to want to get out of there, you could say that, but there's no guarantee that the security of what he's done thus far is in any of these other markets that haven't done shit. So like you could say, oh, well, I think he's gonna go to the Dolphins. They ain't won a division in 17 years. You think that makes Joe Burrow feel more secure in what he's about to do? I'm just giving that as an example. So like I just think people need to like look at the whole canvas of what's going on, besides just looking at the first cynical version of this is the worst case scenario that could happen to Joe Burrow. Like, I think Joe Burrow loves the Bengals, and he's talked about that a lot. He's just doing like what we would do. You know, we had that opportunity to say this is what needs to get better. And I think he's going to get what he wants too.
Yep. For those listening, this show is powered by BETUS. Make sure that you guys check them out. Use the promo code YouTube150. Once again, that's YouTube150 at betus.com. That's going to get you 150% price match on all of your deposits that you put in there, plus 125% after that. So make sure you check them out. As you guys know, we have the Wincy Play of the Week. We'll have that coming up later on in the show. So make sure that you guys are tapped in with us for sure. Before we move on to some of these other playoff matchups that affect the Bengals, Tee Higgins has some comments in terms of what he's saying. There's a question here in the comments that says, do you believe Tee Higgins would take less than 30 mil to stay in Cincy if he gets offered by other teams? My thing is, I don't think the Bengals need to even let him get to free agency. There's a point in period within the offseason where you need to make offers to Tee Higgins. I don't think that Tee Higgins, I don't think it's a deal breaker. This is just me personally. I don't think it's a deal breaker that he has to be the top paid receiver. We just read a quote from a DT that interviewed T and kind of spoke on that, like Tee Higgins' desire to be the highest paid receiver versus remaining in Cincinnati. Like he would rather remain in Cincinnati. I'll just put it like that. I'm not going to put a dollar sign or anything on that. However, I don't think he's taking chump change to stay here, but I don't think that he's going to break the bank either. I think you'll see something very similar to what kind of happened with Brandon Ayuk, where he didn't take a deal that necessarily broke the 49ers and was able to work within the team, the constructs of the team, right? I think you'll see something like that. But Zem, what were your thoughts on T's comments today? And do you see him staying?
I think T at market value in my mind, and I could be off, but let's just throw this out there. I think the market value of Tee Higgins to me is about $28 million per. Now, you could say, I don't know what people would say. I don't care. $28 million for a team with potentially $90 million in cap space doesn't give you a $28 million cap hit because you have to give them cash up front. So right. The cap hit could be $10, $15 million or whatever, like to eat up the $90 million. The rest of the money, all defense. By paying Tee Higgins, you don't have to allocate resources to try to go fix him in free agency with another wide receiver or go to the draft and use more draft capital to replace him. So that's why I've never, believed in this notion that it makes sense to let him walk. Now, the mechanism that they could use, and I'm not saying, and I've said this, there's a good pod that we have on here from Wincinnati where me and Goodberry are having a great discussion. If you want to go back and look at this is before the season. I said it would play out just like this in this regard. His value was at the lowest point then. His value is much higher now. He's now the number one rated free agent in all of football on ESPN, PFF, all these different things. But what the Bengals can do that I didn't think that they would do, what they couldn't do with David Mulugheta is they could have used David Mulugheta to go find new offers. But the difference is now that he has the same agent as Jamar is the Bengals say, look, we want to work out a deal because Joe said it, Jamar said it. That's another part of the puzzle people aren't talking about is Jamar Chase has been just as adamant about bringing him back as Joe Burrow. And he said that even yesterday. He said it's a big if that this is his last game because he said his chess pieces and you just got to get the numbers right. Jamar Chase has said that on record for the last couple weeks, but people kind of gloss by that. That's why I feel like our show is here to remind them and all the people that are ops that don't get those reports or gloss by them. We're going to remind you about those things every single chance, whether you want to believe it or not. They came directly out of his mouth. So that's what it is. I also want to point out this. The tag will make sure that they get into negotiations, whether I don't think you let him hit the open market like you said. It's not to tag him to play on the tag again. It's a placeholder to say, hey, look, let's start negotiations, right? So now you tag him. Say worst case scenario, they don't get the deal done. You now have the rights to him, and anybody that now has seen this dude just do a 900-yard season and miss 5 games, now send me your offer. And that's what I've been saying all along. It's like if they don't get the deal done, there's no scenario where you walk. I think now he's made his value. I think there's plenty of teams. I think there's at least 3-4 teams that would 100% give him a first-round pick and buy the rights to be able to pay Tee Higgins $30 million a year. $28 million, I think, is what his value is, in my opinion. I am not a capologist or whatever. This is just the market based off of the other wide receivers that I'm looking at. The very most important quote, Aditi Kinkabala quoted this, and she tweeted this out yesterday too. For all my haters, check me out. She quoted this on Tee Higgins, and I start with the quote. I'm playing with, if not the best, one of the best quarterbacks. I'm playing with, if not the best wide receivers also. That opens up things for me. And in this offense, everyone has a chance to be spotlighted. He now shares an agent with Jamar Chase and told Higgins is the most unselfish person. Maybe it's not impossible. He also made it clear in those statements that his desire is not to be paid as a number one wide receiver, reported by Aditi Kinkabala on 12/28, in case you missed it.
Yes, sir. So I think there's a really good chance that Tee Higgins is back. But speaking of things at the present right now, we got the Miami Dolphins at the Jets. Now, the Bengals have 2 games that they need to go their way. It's this one, and then it's also the Kansas City and Denver game. Let's get into the first one, Miami at the New York Jets. Now, this one is in New York. Weather is expected to be, I believe, in the teens, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if that forecast is still the same, but it's expected to be cold. If it's not the teens, because we're recording this on Wednesday, we know weather does crazy stuff from here until Sunday, right? But it's expected to be cold. The other big part of this, Tua Tagovailoa is expected to miss this game. Snoop Huntley is expected to start again. That means for me in this one, I mean, I was already going with the Jets, but I really like the Jets' chances in this because you're talking about a team that has some turmoil, right? And usually when you have a season with turmoil, you kind of want to get some things right by the end of the season. You got Aaron Rodgers there. I trust Aaron Rodgers way more than DCR, especially in a situation where his future in New York might be looking kind of murky, right? So we don't know if he's staying there or not. We don't know if he's trying to showcase for other teams. And I think overall, I don't know if you guys have watched the Enigma documentary on Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't like losing. He doesn't take losing well. And I think especially like at the end of the season, I don't think that this is a situation where he wants to go out with an L to end possibly his career in New York, or I don't think that that's going to dispel like any notion that he might have fell off. So for him to kind of get rid of that notion, he has to have a good game and a good performance here. And then also, I just don't see Miami playing well in cold weather. Like they kind of caught a break in Cleveland where it wasn't as cold and they were playing DTR. They didn't really look that good in that game if you actually watched it. So I think them going against the Jets in New York, I think that favors the Jets. What are your thoughts on this Miami and Jets game?
I think I'm gonna go off of the Aaron Rodgers thing that you just said too. I think because of his relationship with Joe Burrow, I know this is gonna sound a little weird. I think he wants to win to ensure that Joe Burrow gets in the playoffs. I think that I think ultimately all the things that you said, but another reason is I think he really rocks with Joe, and all the quarterbacks really rock with Joe, and they really want to see. Like I think only fans don't want to see Joe Burrow like in a playoff scenario. I think Aaron Rodgers, I know that sounds a little crazy. Like, why would he care? I think there's a special fraternity like with the quarterbacks, and they want to see him in. And I think Aaron Rodgers is 100% going to play for himself. But I think subconsciously in the back of his mind, he definitely wants to make sure he does it. I think the defensive front of the Jets, too, is really good. I thought the Dolphins, Calais Campbell has been playing lights out. But I think that like those teams that the Dolphins played, the Browns sold 49 is so crazy. The Dolphins defense is no joke, but I do think the rumblings of Garrett Wilson maybe requesting a trade, Devontae Adams, the report is that he's going to be gone and everything like that. I do think that they're not trying to go out like that. I just can't see them going out where they just get spanked. It's a divisional rival. They also have the 1 point, as we'll look at, like maybe we'll take a look at BETUS, but the spread isn't, you know what I'm saying? That's the one where I think that the Jets could knock them off. I really do. My heart tells me that I think the Dolphins probably are going to win, but I think the Jets are more than capable. Like that's the thing. Because I think the Dolphins.
Wait, your heart or your head?
My head. My heart wants the Jets to win. My mind and my brain is telling me the Dolphins currently right now are playing better. But I think that the Jets have the components to cook up a little bit on that game. But their players like Garrett Wilson and company, they got a ball. Like I don't know what they're doing. They got to go ball. Like I don't know.
So the last time they played, it was 32-26. This is in Miami. Tua threw for 331 yards, 2 touchdowns. Aaron Rodgers was 27-39, 339 yards and a touchdown. Your man Garrett Wilson, he led the Jets in receiving, 7 receptions for 114 yards. Tyreek Hill had his way, 10 receptions, 115 yards. The big factor to me, though, is there's a big difference between Snoop Huntley and Tua. We'll see what the Jets can do, but yeah, I think it'll be a close one. Got a super chat here from Carlton Thomas. Happy New Year, Ace and Zim. Bengals are coming. Pause. Yeah, man.
Is that the real Carl Thomas? I'm emotional. Yeah, Carl Thomas.
The other game. This is the one I don't feel comfortable about. We're going to talk about the Denver game, the Denver Broncos against the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I got something that I want to say about this game because this came to me when I was thinking about it. I was like, bro, why would they just simply, forfeit this game, hang the white flag? The thing that I'm thinking about, and I don't know if anybody else has said this, and they may have because it kind of makes sense. If you know that the team that if the Bengals or whoever gets in is playing the Bills, you have a rivalry with the Bills. You're one of the strongest teams in the AFC. And looking over the strongest teams in the AFC the past 3 years, you could say that it's been, outside of the Chiefs, the Bengals and the Bills. why wouldn't you beat Denver on purpose so that the Bengals and Bills can have to eliminate each other versus trusting the Denver Broncos to eliminate the Bills? Like, it's not going to happen. So, like, to me, I would think if you're confident and you're familiar with these two teams and they're strong, why not beat the Denver Broncos to hope that the Bengals either eliminate the Bills? If you really like that, if you really say that you want Cincinnati on all of these reality shows and this and that, you're not scared of Cincinnati, it makes it look like you're even more scared of Cincinnati because it's more smart for you to actually win this game and let the Bengals take on the Bills and eliminate them from this game. What are your thoughts on that? Do you feel like that's valid?
That's a great point, bro. I'm with you. I'm a kind of piggyback off of that too. Y'all remember that Netflix show when Pat Mahomes? I never watched it. I always saw clips though. Remember the quarterback show?
Yep.
All right, so Pat would talk about the Bengals on that show because those are the clips people would send me, or I would like clip them or whatever. Never watched the show, not interested in watching that team, right? But there was a clip when Pat had lost to the Bengals and they went 0-3. He was going to the locker room, and I never forgot it. And if somebody can find me this clip, please send it to me. I've been looking for it for a while. I feel like people have taken it off the internet. But he goes into the locker room after he talks about like how bad he wants to beat them. And then this is that December January game that we played them in or whatever. You know, I'd be like, that's my favorite Bengals offense game, whatever, where Joe was like lights out. He goes into the locker room after that loss and he's like, fuck, and going crazy. I know that fans probably don't want that smoke, but I know him after seeing that video. If he's as competitive as I think he is, he does not want to go out and have people say that they dodged the Bengals. Just off of that right there, that clip right there. If you see that clip that I'm talking about and how he talked about the matchups and how he was, I think it was talking about his dad and somebody else was talking about like who's a better matchup. The way he talked about the Bengals, he don't like, I don't care what their fans talking about. He not running from no Bengals smoke. He does not want to go down. I don't care if he thinks he got to get the rest or whatever. I don't know about none of that. But I know that the competitor in that dude, after watching that clip, if you watch the clip I'm talking about, he not trying to dodge the Bengals. So I think a lot of this stuff is a little bit of smoke screens because think about this. If you don't play Kelsey, okay, y'all play fantasy football, you still got Noah Gray. You still got dudes like Watson. You still got Juju. Those are their backups. Y'all don't think that those are legitimate like weapons? Like a 10-point spread is crazy. I feel like most of that has to be off of defense because offensively, they have so many players that they rely on that even if they went and said, we're not going to play D-Hop, okay, we still got to play. Hollywood just came back like a week or two ago. He still got to run out there and do something, right? Like, okay, we're not going to play Pacheco, but okay, we're going to play Hunt. Or we're going to play Carson Steele. Like, those are all players that they all use. So it could be backups, bro. And I think that those are still legitimate players that have impact. Now, the defensive side of the ball may be a different story, but as I was telling you before the show, we just played Bo Nix.
Right.
With Spag's scheme, I think he would have answers for them. Like, they didn't do nothing to them the first time. Like, say you don't got your number one corner. Like, I don't think that that's a problem for a Spag's scheme. So, like, I think the Chiefs could beat them. I really do. I have more faith. That might sound crazy. I think I might have more faith in the Chiefs backup winning than maybe that Dolphins game, bro. Because I don't know. The Dolphins been playing so much better than the Jets. I don't know. So I don't know.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think it's possible. The last time these teams faced off, it was 16-14. So that was back in November. But I think it's possible. And then you got the other factor of Carson Wentz is kind of in a Drew Lock situation, right? Like, he's relegated to a backup now. This is an opportunity for him to show that he can put some good tape out there. So I don't think you're going to get a DTR type situation from Carson Wentz Now, the one issue is, I think from an offensive line perspective and a pass rush perspective, you're talking about the best pass rush in the league, at least on paper, that Denver has versus a Kansas City offensive line that has been somewhat up and down. However, they did do pretty decent against the Browns and Myles Garrett a few weeks ago. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. But the other part about this that doesn't make sense to me is, why not let the Bengals in? Here's the other point. Why are you letting your starters not play for like an entire month, bro? Because you're talking about a situation where you got to have the Pro Bowl happen, you got to have NFL honors, you got to have the wild card round happen, and then you have to have your team come out and take on that other team. Like, that's a long time to be sitting down, bro. Like, I'm not doubting the Chiefs, but like, to take like a month off, nearly a month off of football, and come back and just expect to like really compete at a high level, I don't think is smart either. Now, I'm not saying like risk your starters and play them, but like I would at least play them like a half or something like that, just to ensure that, you know, they have some sort of football that's being played. And I think some people were referencing like the Ohio State Oregon game or whatever. Like, sometimes when you sit your players and they're rusty, by the time they come back,
I mean, bro, he's had little time. What I think, if they're gonna go and beat like the Ravens, to me, I think that Hollywood Brown and Worthy have to be a function of that game in some capacity. If they had Rashee Rice, I might not feel that way, right? But they don't. But Marquise Brown just coming back, you're making a great point. Somebody do the math. They just played, what was that, Christmas? If you're off so all that time right there, this week right here, and you get the first round bye, that's like 25 days, almost a month, that you wouldn't be playing. Like, I had to see a calendar. I think that the divisional round is like January. Shoot, I don't know off the top of my head, but it's like the second week in January, I believe. So that's, you know what I'm saying, like January 16th or something like that. That's like 25 days. So for a team that they've only scored over 30 once. Like, I think defensively, get everybody healthy, get Chris Jones healthy, get all that stuff. Like, I wouldn't even be tripping off that one. But the offense, to me, isn't like, I wouldn't trust that offense. Like, it hasn't been humming all year like that. I wouldn't trust it to sit 25.
January 18th is the divisional round, Saturday, or the 19th. So you're talking about
25 days.
Christmas until then. Like, you're really talking about like not playing some of these guys for that long. 24. And you know, I get it. Obviously, we have a vested interest in this, but this is just like from the standpoint of, if
don't you think we would play? If we were in the same scenario.
Yeah, I think you would see us play at least for a half. I think the way that you would treat this game, and maybe it's not even a half, maybe it's a couple series, maybe it's similar. You know what we would do? Because we were in this situation. Remember when we played the Cleveland Browns?
Yes.
And we came in, like they played a couple series, tried to get Jamar, I think, like a record or something like that, took him out the game. I think you see something similar to that if people are in this kind of situation. Now, I think, like, it's fair to say that, like, a couple series, you're not really risking injury, but I get it. Like, this is something that Andy Reid has done in the past. To me, it just doesn't make complete sense, but at the end of the day, they're going to do what they want to do. But I think that there's a lot of concerns, especially for a team that has had a lot of close games where they're getting saved by blocked field goals and stuff like that. I think you're just playing with fire, coming out rusty when you've kind of looked rusty in some of these games already when you've been fully there.
Now, I think this is the thing. Now, I don't watch the Chiefs like on a weekly basis, but I do know the way that they do play players or whatever, they rotate a lot of players. So, like, this whole concept, it's not like resting Jamar Chase, Tee Higgins for them or whatever, when they have like 5-6 options that they go to on offense anyway. So when people say like resting all their starters, okay, you could rest Kelsey, but you're telling me you're not going to play Noah Gray at all? You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to play Carson Steele and guys that have like functions of your offense or whatever, or Juju's of the world. Like those guys, like the Chiefs are their record for a reason. Is because they have depth and they play a lot of that depth. So that's the bigger. I think that's the part that people are getting lost in the sauce. Is like it's not like just sitting. Why would I play? Yes. Don't play Kelsey. Like Kelsey and Mahomes been doing this like forever. Like nobody worried about them. I'm talking about like the other guys, like all them other dudes that have input. Because the dude said, why would they play him? Because the one game that they did lose was the Bills, and you need firepower. And I think that not letting Hollywood and Worthy be out there at the same time, I would play both of them and see how that like had them like that's a big function of how they beat the Steelers last week. I would work off of that and see like can I move with that momentum because I need points. I can't go. I'm not going to go this whole year. Like I don't see a scenario where they go and knock out all these games and they don't score 30. And then I just don't see it. Like I think on the Bills and the Ravens, unlike the Ravens last year, they have to score 27 points or so. And I don't think you want your offense playing like it has for most of the season. They only had one game over 30. So the person that asked that question, that's why. I don't think that their offense is good enough to do that. That's why.
For sure. Before we get into our playoff matchup, we want to bring in the Wincy Play of the Week before we even. This is a little out of the norm. Usually we don't do this, so we're gonna bring in the Bengals. We actually have to go to the All Games and select the Bengals Steelers. So it's up at the top. All
right, let me see.
Scroll back up.
Yeah, I got this one.
You got to scroll up.
Okay.
All right. Where it says All Games, let's click on that. All right, partner, it's on you. I've been picking some of these last couple of ones. Bengals, Steelers, people that put money down, people that do that kind of thing. How are we feeling?
They won't even let me do it. Now I'm gonna tell you why. Burrow wants that 5K, bro. Damn, they won't even let me do more than 65. 65, look, this is plus 152 to go over 320. Burrow wants 359 so that he can get the 5,000.
That's great. These are things that as the average person sitting at home looking at BETUS, you might not notice. You might not notice information. He needs that to get to 5K. And we all know Joy B wants that 5K.
It won't let me parlay this. Oh, I got it under singles. All right, hold on.
We'll just do that. That's one of our plays. All right,
so $65 on this gets you 163. If you really in, I'm gonna put my. I don't want to tell y'all like don't come and kill them, but I'm telling y'all right now. Joe Burrow came to the podium, and Tee Higgins also had a statement today. He said, "I want to be able to tell my kids I play with an MVP candidate and a Triple Crown winner." And one of the ways that Burrow can do that is by winning this game, getting to the playoffs, and being the only quarterback to throw for 5,000 yards this season.
Hey, my boy, I am. I think that's a smart play there.
The other one, let me tell you the other one. So Jamar Chase, if he wants to be in rare territory, I don't know if this is one of the goals that he put on his mirror. But one of the things that he needs to do to overtake Carl Pickens' touchdown record is to have 17 touchdowns, right? If I seen a stat for this too, which I know Jamar Chase is aware of. There aren't any players that have 1,700 yards in 17 touchdowns. So in order for him to get that, he needs 109 yards and one touchdown to eclipse that. That's not that much. And let's give you more. Let's give you more insight because we haven't looked at the game yet. Recently, the Steelers have given up a lot of passing yards. Check this out. Cam Sutton currently is ranked 128 out of 132 qualifying secondary members in the National Football League, PFF. The other guy, Dante Jackson, is also 130. They're rating out currently as the two worst corners currently in NFL. Now, Joey Porter Jr. is coming back this week. I just left the AFC North Roundtable. Shout out to them. They did inform me that Joey Porter's coming back. But what happened the last time we played Joey Porter? They forced 4 penalties on Joey Porter, and they were cooking him throughout the whole entire game. That was when Joe Burrow wasn't even playing to this level. I think that they're going to have their way. Chase Brown has an ankle injury. They're coming out there, Pittsburgh, Saturday night to air it out. Win, lose, or draw. They're throwing the football around.
All right, so we're taking what is that, Jamar?
I'm taking the Jamar Chase. Remember I said he needs 109. So at 113, you can get it at plus 136.
So take
it won't let me go over 73. $73 gets you 172.
So take Jamar Chase at least 113 receiving yards. If you're not a Bengals fan and you're just a listener of the show and you want to make a play with BETUS, take Jamar Chase 113 plus. We made a lot of people money here on this channel. Not gonna lie to you. The Wincy plays of the week have been playing off and coming through, and people have been cashing out on them. So make sure that you guys check this out. We cover this team. We know this team from front to back. Pause. So you're getting, quality analysis and information here.
We're going to talk about the matchup too. Both tackles practice today, Orlando Brown Jr. and Amarius Mims. So both tackles slated to play, the strength of the Bengals offensive line.
So are those going to be our only players this week?
It's up to you. Those are the two that I feel like
I'm rolling with those ones, bro. Burrow and Chase. I think we're good there. I think
that Yoshi anytime touchdown be cooking too, though. Like I ain't gonna
Yoshi anytime touchdown.
That joint be cooking, but let's just roll with those two. I just think that those two are on a mission. There's another thing we can factor in too. This might be Tee Higgins' final game in a Bengals uniform. You never know. They were talking about going out.
Are they going to try to get T 1,000? That's what I want to know. Are they going to try to get
how far away is he from there? Like 180 or something like that?
Nah, it's closer than that, bro. I think.
Oh my God.
I want to say it's closer than that.
Bro, you know what's so crazy? This has been a wild season. Did y'all know that sometimes I come on here, I'll be like, yeah, Bengals like a top 3 offense. I didn't know it, and of course, Burrow's thrown for more yards. Did you know that
T is 142?
All he needs is 142 to get a stack.
All he needs is 142 to get 1,000.
Bro, hold on. I need that. I'm telling you, bro, they had no other option. Chase Brown is probably not playing. Even if he does play, light duty, bro. They're going after it.
Bro, the Steelers have been giving up a lot on defense lately.
I'm telling you. I just talked to the Steelers dude. Look, the plus, you said 132. They got Tee Higgins at plus 330.
For 118, that is, bro, I'm taking that. That's
they won't let me run more than 30.
Not even 29. Put that
$29 gets you 127. I would take that all day, people.
I would take that easily.
That 1,000. I mean, just sprinkle a little 20 bucks or something on that. You'd be good to go.
Man. All right. Those are the Wincy plays of the week. So take Joe Burrow 312 plus because he's trying to go for 5,000. Take the Jamar Chase.
Anything over 109.
109. And then take the Tee Higgins at least 118. Because Tee Higgins could be going for 1,000 yards on the season as well. And the Bengals are trying to get into the playoffs, man. This could be a high-scoring game for them. We'll see how it goes, but let's get into the actual game, bro. Bengals, Steelers. Now, the interesting thing about this is when the Browns lose to the Ravens, there's a lot that could not be on the line for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They could turn into a team that may need to rest their starters as well. I'm just going to say this, man. Pittsburgh Steelers have lost by double digits 3 of their last games. They've really fell off of a cliff. Their secondary is hurt right now. Their defense has been giving up a lot of points and a lot of yardage. And I think that that's the wrong time for them to be taking on an offense like the Bengals. Joe Burrow is cooking right now. Tee Higgins is cooking right now. Jamar Chase is cooking right now. And even if you don't have Chase Brown, I know I love Chase Brown. That's our guy. I called him RB1 when people were saying Zach Moss should be the starter. That's not a shot at Zim. That's a shot at people people in the Cincinnati fan base that are now doing comparisons between him and Joe Mixon.
Why? Why did they do that?
I don't. It's weird, bro. It's weird because Zach Moss was signed for 2 years, but that's neither here nor there.
Then the same people that say that Mixon people be talking and we just minding our business, they come up with those comparison charts every week.
The comparison chart is crazy because, and then I'm seeing you're comparing the salary, and it's like, bro, they paid Zach Moss like $4 million. Like, what are we doing?
Think about look, somebody victory lapping the fact that they didn't pay Mixon the money after Mixon took a pay cut. So that's number one.
And after you wasted the money on Zach Moss, like we didn't get that Zach Moss. The Zach Moss money isn't there. It's not a comparison between those two. But I say that to say this.
Let me ask you, hold on. What did they do with the money that they saved with the $1.8 million that they did with that money? So why are they taking a victory lap on that? Can I also tell people this real quick? Do y'all know the only game in Bengals in the Joe Burrow era that doesn't have a quarterback getting sacked with it? Do y'all know what game that was? The only game that a quarterback didn't get sacked.
Which one?
It was last year. It was the game where Joe Mixon and Chase Brown both went over 100 all-purpose yards.
Oh, yeah. That game.
So the score was like 34-15 or something like that.
Yeah.
They both went over 100 all-purpose yards. Remember, they threw the screens. It's probably regarded as one of Zach Taylor's best efforts, right? His best game plans. The only game that a quarterback didn't get sacked, write that down, is the game where Joe Mixon and Chase Brown collectively as a tandem both had over 100 all-purpose yards. And people think that those two together, 1,300, mind you, they both have over 1,300 all-purpose yards this season. People think that those two wouldn't have made your team better. And you didn't do anything with the money. I just have to just say that because people that be like, well, I don't know if Chase Brown would have got the rock. So what? Say, I don't think Mixon. I think Chase Brown would have been RB1. Like
it would have been a dynamic tandem. It would have looked something.
It would have been a top 5 running back room in the National Football
League. What we kind of saw in Detroit, but maybe even a little nastier. Just because.
And maybe Joe Burrow done had to drop back 40, 50 times, and then you could hide behind, oh well, that's not a Zach Taylor scheme. But I just showed you an example of Zach's best effort in his scheme was the Colts game last year where both running backs had over 100 all-purpose yards. Yeah. I am like, they don't want to do this with me. Like I'm trying to tell you, it's too much ammo. Like they stop comparing and doing weird stuff because I'm just going to unload every clip every single time and it's backed by facts and validity. They're going off of emotions.
And I say that to say, I think Khalil Herbert could do a good job as a starting running back. I think, Khalil Herbert has filled in within this league. He's not new. And I thought that he filled in pretty well for Chase Brown in that last game. So if Chase Brown can't go, I feel like Khalil Herbert would be a guy that can get them some explosive runs. And he's got to do something. Like they traded for him. We've seen him very sparingly, and now he gets the opportunity to showcase what he has. Now, obviously, he had that mistake of that fumble when he got in, when he first got signed. But this is a situation for him to prove himself and also look better for other teams. So I think Khalil and Joe Burrow kind of spoke to that. Khalil can do some things in this, and I think Mike Gesicki, I think the way that the Bengals offense is rolling right now, I think that Pittsburgh is in trouble. That's all I'm going to say. Pittsburgh is in trouble, especially if Russell Wilson is not able to make any big plays. And I think what you saw last week was teams know what the Steelers are now. It's either they're taking the short dump offs or they're going for it all. It's no in between. It's no medium, intermediate like plays for them. Like they don't do that. It's either the small stuff or they're taking the bombs. And if the Bengals are able to create a game plan that forces Russell Wilson to cause some turnovers like he did in the Ravens game and some of these other games, I think you're fine. What you can't have is a repeat of him going off for 400 yards through the air and doing some things with George Pickens. But that just seems so long ago, even though it wasn't that long ago, that this Steelers offense is not that and the Steelers defense is not that. So I think the Bengals are going to walk through this one with a victory. What about you, partner?
I'm on the same wave. I feel like the one thing I don't take for granted, though, is there aren't that many quarterbacks that I feel like statistically outperformed Joe Burrow this season. Russell Wilson did. In that first game, he threw for 414 yards. 270 of those yards were all yak. The Bengals have then, after that game, made a lot of adjustments. And a lot of those adjustments I saw play out like in the weeks where, especially like the Broncos games and some of the throws that were thrown underneath. The Bengals defense and the Lou Anarumo scheme and different things have happened where I feel like they've gotten way more aggressive. Jordan Battle, they're allowing them to come up and make hits. They're allowing Geno Stone to go move towards the football and not stay flat-footed in the back area of the zones or the deep thirds of the football field as well. The adjustments that they made, including Pratt coming off the best game that he had all season this past week, Mike Hilton playing like a monster, I think that the Steelers are in trouble. I think defensively, everybody is treating the Bengals off of their cumulative effort and what they've done throughout the whole season. And I don't think that you could judge any team like that. The Bengals have played really well. Mind you, the Broncos only had 10 points going into 5 minutes left in the game last week for one of the better teams in the National Football League. I don't think that they're a great team. I think they're a good team. I think that them and the Steelers would have a slug match right now, right? So I do think that the Steelers do pose some problems because the familiarity. Tomlin has some things that he does to the Bengals, and I think he understands like what the Bengals want to do. I also been on record to show that Joe Burrow, outside of his rookie season, has never really had a problem with the Steelers, including 2022, where he came there on that famous afternoon game that turned into night, and he jumped up and he said, "We the big dogs," and the Bengals went on a run. And that was a prime opportunity. It was a big game. They were in those white uniforms, and I remember they had no answer for Joe Burrow in that game. He went crazy. Even in the game that me and you were there in that home opener, yeah, he threw those picks early on. He still threw for over 400-something yards. Like, he hasn't struggled with them doing what he wants to do. And the stats that I've given y'all on the cornerbacks of Sutton and Dante Jackson or whatever, they're grading out as the worst in the NFL currently right now out of 132 qualifying cornerbacks in the stats that I just gave you. They're not playing good ball going up against a most determined wide receiver core that has a purpose, and they're doing something right now that's bigger than just football, and that's creating something to say that we want to cement our legacy in the Cincinnati Bengals culture, the history books, and all these different things. I just feel like the Steelers are running up against a buzzsaw that doesn't work in their favor. So I think that they had a good defense. It has been falling off. And the one team you don't want to face is a team that's throwing the football as well as the Bengals right now. Now, if the Steelers can come up with a game plan to stop Khalil Herbert, I think that that's possible. Can they go throw for throw with Joe Burrow? Russell Wilson proved that before that he could. And that's the one thing that if you're a Steelers fan, you could lean on that. I just don't think that the defense alignment is set up the same way. I got the Bengals in this game by 6 points, the same amount that they beat us by, in a game where I think I'm going to be upset that the Steelers are getting yards and plays that I'm like, whatever. If I were the Steelers, and this is just outside of the Bengals, these are a couple of different notes that I just noticed watching them last week. I would stop giving Najee Harris any more than 6-8 carries a game. I would give the majority of the carries to Jalen Warren. I think he's a far better runner. It reminds me of Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, kind of remind me of Chase Brown mixing kind of scenario, because Najee can get you tough yards, but Jalen Warren out in the open field is dangerous, and he's a tough runner. I would give the ball to him. I would throw to George Pickens. I would give him, y'all play fantasy football, I would give George Pickens 14 targets a game, straight jump balls and moon balls that Russell Wilson played. They don't do that, though. And I also would implement Justin Fields in there probably about like 8-10 times a game and let him run some read option. They don't do that, though. And if they did that, I think that the Bengals, they would pose way more problems. If they do that in the playoffs, I think they could probably knock somebody off. I just don't think that they're going to do that.
No, for sure. So, yeah, I think that's going to pretty much wrap this show up for us. Before we get out of here, though, we got to highlight our sponsor. Shout out to them for the New Year's Day post. They also had a special order for Cam Taylor Britt that he picked up. I think he had some of them CTB wings.
wings, G-Funk wings, and them CTBs. Midwest Best is the place to be for queuing wings. Midwest Best is the place to be for queuing wings. It's the AC to the Zim, M to the B's. Uno wings, G-Funk wings, and them CTBs. Midwest Best is the place to be for queuing wings. Midwest Best is the place to be for queuing wings. Say what up with Jordan Battle. We be going to battle. Intercepting balls like CTB did on Seattle. Putting 6 up on AZ. Juice gang amazing. Make sure you come get these wings, cause Zimby stay blazing. And T Andy smooth as ice. Jamal making DBs fold. TB got big levels, and now you already know. So pretty for Uno wings. Cam got the new wings. We call them CTBs. Only at MBs. Asian to the Zim, M to the B's.
Shout out to Midwest Best Barbecue. Bengals are 1-0 when CTB orders Midwest Best Barbecue before the game. So make sure you guys stop in there. Get some of those CTB wings, man.
Damn, I want some of the wings right now. God, I want some of the wings right now. That one hit.
They hitting crazy. Make sure that you check them out. 669 Justice Court in Loveland, Ohio. As you guys know, the Wincinnati podcast is live every Monday and Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure that you hit that like button. Make sure that you subscribe. If you're checking this out on Twitter, please do us a favor. Head on over to YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. We appreciate that. That helps the channel out. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. And as usual, make sure that you guys follow us on Twitter. Follow him at Zimhude. Follow me at New Stripe City on Instagram and on Twitter as well. Both of those. Make sure you follow the Wincinnati Pod at Wincinnati Pod. And make sure that you guys check out the Bengals post with Jake and Mon. Zim, was there something that you wanted to say?
I have a question for you.
What's up?
It's a two-part question. What are the percentage, if you had to give a percent, forget New York Times simulator, anything like that, what is the percentage that you think that the Bengals have of making the playoffs? And then the second part of that, what is the percentage once the Bengals get in the playoffs that you have them going to a Super Bowl?
50%. I think is a chance of them making the playoffs. I really do genuinely think Aaron Rodgers is going to beat the Dolphins. Like, Snoop Huntley at quarterback is not it. The hardest one is really, really that Chiefs game, bro. So I'm going to give it 50% for that. If they get in, when they get in, let's switch it up. When they get in, I'm going to give them a 70% chance of getting to the Super Bowl, bro.
Hey, bro, if they get in the playoffs, I'm going to put you on the spot. If they get in the playoffs,
I was talking to my neighbor earlier. My neighbor is a Broncos fan, by the way, so that was a little awkward. I'm like, yeah, bro, we had to do that. He seems to think if the Bengals get in, he was like, you remember the Giants when they were 8-8 and he was like, if the Bengals get in, bro, they can go on a run. I agree with him, bro. I don't think that there's anybody that they're scared of.
Somebody told me that earlier today, but check this out. Everybody referencing that. The 2021 Bengals were very similar to that. They were a team that got hot at the end of the season. They were like 500 for most of the season. And then at the end, they had that big game with the Chiefs where Burrow throws for 446 yards. They go crazy and they get in the playoffs. And once they got in, then remember, the defense wasn't some top 10 defense. It was by most metrics between 17 and 22, probably about where they're at right now.
That's true.
Like in the early 20s, right? You know what I mean? Like they had a team like that and they got hot. The difference is I ain't never seen Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and them boys play like this. And Tee Higgins collectively, all three of them together, they never looked this good. Like if they would have looked like this, they would have smoked the Titans. They'd have smoked. Like I know that the offensive line was an issue or whatever. They're like the addition of Dan Pitcher and Rascati and all these guys like that. They got these boys like playing offense to the level that I just think about that Broncos game. The 2 4th downs that they didn't get were like the saving grace for the Bengals not putting 40 up on the number 1 defensive EPA per play team in the National Football League. The Broncos got crazy work put on them last week. Like nobody does that to the Broncos like that, bro. the way that they're playing and put a 400, Burrow put 400 plus on them. Go look at when the Chiefs played the Broncos. Go look at like when some of these other teams played them. It didn't look like that. And I'm telling y'all, the Bengals defense, if they get you in a spot where they have a lead, the Lou Anarumo system is based off of making quarterbacks throw the football. For most of the season, they hadn't had those leads like that. And when they did have them, they were like for small margins. Like it wasn't like a comfortable lead. That's how we were smoking people in 2022. If they could get leads on teams in a playoff scenario, like how we did the Bills and how we did, like, I just think that the Bengals would. I'm with you, 50% to make the playoffs. I really feel like that, right? But I'm gonna take it a step further. I think a 85%, 85% if they get into the playoffs to go back to a Super Bowl. I'm dead ass serious, bro. I don't think nobody wants to put up points with them outside of the Ravens. That's the only team in the formula in the 2 games that the Bengals played the Ravens. The formula that they had of keeping Derrick Henry off the field, I think would work if they could just not turn the ball over. And you know what I'm saying? Like when we was up 21-7, like I don't think that they will cook or Lamar would match Burrow like that in a playoff scenario. I think the pressure, I don't think he would match it where Burrow's not going to care. And that's the only team that I think that the Bengals should be worried about like that. I think the Bills, I just see their defense getting 40-something put on them like back-to-back weeks by the Lions, the Rams. They didn't look that strong to me. Their defense don't look like they could handle Burrow and them boys throwing on them. Like,
hey, man,
I think that they could put 30-40 on whoever.
Super Bowls in New Orleans. We need some of that voodoo put on the Broncos this weekend and the Dolphins, man. Somebody got to do something. We got to get these boys to New Orleans. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Wincinnati podcast. We'll see you guys next week. Hey.